when you're young, or when I was young, I thought that success was all I needed. That's what was going to bring the happiness. Buying my mom a house, being the fame, the accolades, having people say, yo, you are the best in the game. I thought those would be the things that would bring happiness. And then when those things came, the happiness wasn't there. And I realized why that was. There was such an attempt to achieve these things and to keep going that you lose sight of the people and the blessings that you have around you. You're so focused on the next success, the next step in your career, the next check, whatever it is, and you forget the fact that you have these things that seem small if you're looking that way. But if you look this way, you realize they're the only thing that matters, and that's your mother, that's your family, that's love, and that's what that song is about.
Hey, I'm Cedric Hawkins, and welcome to the CedTalks Podcast. My guest today is a student at the University of South Carolina. She's an old friend of mine, and I think she's a very driven individual who involves herself in a lot of different projects and activities, and I'm looking forward to catching up with her and seeing what she's going to bring to the table. So without further ado, I give to you Miss Olivia Thompson. Olivia, welcome to the show.
Hey, Cedric, how are you?
I'm doing good. How you been as of late? How's your holidays?
It was great. It was really nice to come back to Huntington, spend some time with my family. I just got back to my apartment a couple of days ago. Classes started on Monday, and just getting back into my groove.
Nice. I can respect that. I was kind of thinking before I called you, like, man, when was the last time I really, sat down and talked with her? It's been so long.
For sure. When you reached out to me, I was actually so excited because, in high school, I feel like we were those kinds of friends where, we didn't really know each other, but we were always really nice to each other. And so, I've seen your stuff on Facebook, and I started podcasts and all the guests you've been having, and I just thought it was really, really interesting and inspiring how you've kind of taken this into your own hands. And I felt so excited when you reached out to me, so I'm glad this is happening.
Yeah, I think I put you down on my list of potential guests back in the end of November, close to December, and then I was thinking she's probably busy with finals. Let her catch up with family for a little bit, and then let's shoot for January before we all get swamped with assignments and essays and whatnot.
For sure, and I actually was listening to one of your episodes, and congratulations on graduating.
Thank you. Yeah, I got my associates probably I think in May. Sometimes I don't even realize it because of COVID, because I didn't get a ceremony, so thank you.
Time has flown by.
It is. It's incredible. How did COVID impact your last semester at USC?
Oh my goodness. I felt like I was either on an episode of Punk'd or Survivor. It was crazy. But it was challenging, but it taught me a lot about resilience and creating routines and schedules, because anyone that knows me, if either of my parents listen to this, they'll know I was not the most disciplined with my time growing up. But in the last year and a half, it's kind of had to come full circle, and the hammer's had to come down, just because nobody's, telling me where to be or what to do. It's all about me and making sure I'm on Zoom and set up and everything. But I took 18 credit hours last semester. I was all online. I didn't have a single in-person class. So it definitely was a lot of screen time and sitting at my desk staring at my computer, but it was well worth it, and I think I learned a lot from it.
Man, you're a beast, 18 credits. Ain't no way I could do 18 credits.
About halfway through the semester, I didn't think I could do 18 credit hours either, but it was one of those things where I was like, you've come so far, you're, halfway through it, you can't back out now, you may as well just keep chugging along. And someone said something to me, and they were like, if you're not doing it, I'm not going to quote it right, but it was like, if you're not doing it because you love it, do it because you hate it so much that you just want to get it done and do it well. And I used that to kind of motivate me. I was like, I can't wait to see this through to the end, and it paid off. I ended up with a 3.5, something like that, and I was very proud of it because of how much work it took and the times that we're in.
Nice. This week was the first week where I've been getting up early. I've always been a morning person, but I've just been sitting in the bed, and now I'm going in the basement and working out. And I was listening to an interview by Kobe Bryant, and the interviewer asked him why do you love basketball so much? And he was just I just love it. And he said, if you're doing something and if you hate it, then you shouldn't really do it. And that kind of resonated with me, because with school, there's obviously a lot of frustration that comes with it, but you love it so much, and it's every day you always come back to it. So it's I feel if you keep going back to it, it's something that you love, and it's your niche, and you have to stick with it, even though you don't want to do it.
For sure. I actually really like that, and I think it's true because, we all have the option to stop doing it or to not go back to it or to not open our laptops or to turn in that assignment. At any moment we could just say, like, we're done or to quit. And I think it says a lot about our personalities and our dedication to both our education and learning and just wanting to be more well-rounded individuals, that we keep going every single day, especially in these weird COVID times and everything's changing and everything's different. I also think it's really interesting because of COVID, we've all had to learn this new skill set of online communication. And, back last year, whenever you could just go to office hours or you could just go to somebody's house to talk to them and confront them about whatever you may need. So now it's definitely taught us a lot more about interpersonal relationships, over the internet and over email. And you reached out to me via a DM, and we were able to get off and talk so quick because of it. So I think we're learning a lot about how technology can benefit us, but at the same time, I think we're also learning how much we need some of those breaks from technology, and those just detoxes to just take a step away from the screen and be in the moment with your family and the people close to you. So I've definitely gotten to value those times a lot as well.
Yeah, I work at a daycare, and so I'm there pretty much part-time because I'm juggling school. And there are days where I come in and my students are just so swamped and they're so tired because they're just in front of a screen all day. Like, one of my kids wasn't done until 4:20, 4:30 yesterday. That's an all-day thing, and it can get really draining. But like you said earlier, it teaches us resilience because, if we can overcome this, then anything else that we get thrown at later on down the road, we can handle it because we handled this in uncertain times.
For sure. And I think you and I are lucky that we're kind of in this limbo age where we don't have full-time online careers that are going to affect us. But I feel really grateful and I feel really bad for those that are in this situation, but to not be in high school, middle school, or elementary school.
Yeah.
I have a 17-year-old brother that goes to Huntingtown, and this has just been the most whirlwind, wacky, weird year for him. And I empathize with him so much. And similar to you, I don't work in daycare, but I babysit part-time for this one family, and they have young children. And luckily they do go to school in person, but one of the child's classes is in quarantine for the next 2 weeks because somebody ended up having it. And so he's having to switch between in-person to online. And, when they're little, it's just really hard to sit them down and to get them to learn the way that they would in person. And part of early education is those learning how to socially interact with people and learning social skills. So I think it'll be really interesting to see over the years how that affects children that grew up during this pandemic versus us and other people that weren't affected by it in our young age.
Yeah, I can't even imagine having to have it be my senior year and having to do everything virtual online. I may have not done a lot of extracurricular activities, but I always love coming to school and hanging out with my friends or just chatting it up with my teachers and cracking jokes with them. I love that, and to not be able to get that opportunity to go to prom, homecoming, to have a graduation at Showplace Arena, it's just unfortunate. I do feel for them.
Absolutely, it would break my heart, and especially when I was listening to your podcast, you mentioned not being able to have that ceremony, and we talked about it earlier. And I also really felt for you because I know how hard you and other people have worked to get to that point, and not to make it a taboo topic, but it takes a lot of money to go to secondary education, higher education. So to put all of that time and money, blood, sweat, and tears, and to not be able to walk across the stage, I really feel for you. I think you are resilient. I think you are great for being able to get through all of that. I think my friends that had to graduate in December of 2020 that didn't get their ceremonies, they're my heroes. You are so much better of a person than I will ever be because I just keep thinking about how this is affecting me, whereas there are people who are missing these large life milestones.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Thank you for that. And so back when it affected everybody in March, I've had different people on the show. They've had different, experiences with how it affected them. How did it affect you back in March?
Yeah, so when I first found out about coronavirus, I want to say I was traveling on my way to spring break, which in hindsight's 2020, and that probably was irresponsible of me. But at the time, we really didn't know the gravity of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all speculation. If we're being honest, I was getting my information on it, if you know, on Snapchat, they have those little, like, stories, those little news stories. I was like, what is coronavirus? So I found out about it that way, actually. And then when I was on spring break is when we found out we weren't coming back to school. So I was living on campus at the time. I lived in the sorority house last year, and it's considered on-campus housing. So similar to dorms and freshmen, we got sent home. I wasn't allowed to go back and get my stuff. I really only had with me, like, what I had on spring break, and they offered for us. They were like, okay, you can go back in and grab stuff, but only get what you need for the next 2 weeks because you're going to be coming back. Like, you don't need to totally move out. Little did we know. So
Right.
I got what I needed, and I drove home, and I knew it was going to be a bad start when I ended up getting in a car accident on my way home from South Carolina during COVID and everything. And it worked out. I was okay. The other driver was okay, thank God. But it just really set the tone for the next couple of months. But I truly learned to just, like, cherish that time that I got with my family and my brother and mom and dad, because although the circumstances were really not ideal, I would have never have gotten that time with my family the way that I did. And, you know, I do feel bad for my dad and my mom and my brother and myself, where we didn't really get to work in our normal work environments. Like, you know, everybody kind of shut down and locked down and stayed inside for a while. But I will never have an excuse the way I did with COVID to be with my family and in the moment and just, you know, like, really learn about each other again, because once you go to high school, you go to college, you know, everyone's kind of their own independent adult. So I'll really cherish and appreciate that time that I got with them that I know I wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, like, with being in high school and college, that everybody's their own independent student. Because I used to think it was just me where I felt like I was in my own little bubble. And in my bubble was school, work, my mom, dad, you know, brother, grandparents, and whatnot. And if anybody who wasn't in that bubble, you know, I just didn't, you know, talk to them. I didn't reach out to them or nothing like that. And when COVID first happened, it really forced me to really open my eyes and just see, like, okay, you know, there are bigger things than school. There are bigger things than work, you know. This is a virus that's killing people, that's, you know, shacking people up in their homes. So it really forced me to just really look at everything and just be grateful of everything that I have, because all that precious time was just taken away. All of my plans were just taken away. And it was really unfortunate.
Absolutely. It was really kind of like a we're all in this together moment for everyone, you know, in the world, really. I was going to say the United States, but truly the world. And I feel like right when everything locked down at the very beginning, where there was that fear, just like in everyone's home, in a weird way, it felt like as a nation, as a world, we were all kind of more united than we have been in a really long time, because we were all learning about this complete unknown, and we were all suffering from loss and, you know, separation from our workplaces and our long distance families. And, you know, kudos to our deployed military that didn't get to see their family for months longer that they ever thought they were going to. So I think for a little while we all were just thinking about each other and thinking about the world, and we haven't seen anything like it since. I'm hopeful that we're on the come up with this vaccine from Moderna and Pfizer. I'm hopeful that things will start to become a new normal. But yeah, it was definitely like a weird and challenging time, and those small bubbles got even smaller, but in a good way, because I think they became like more intimate and more in depth with those people that were in your bubble.
Yeah, absolutely. Besides, you know, being with your family, interacting with them, what were some of the other things that really kept you grounded or kept you from going mentally insane before everything started opening back up in the summer?
That's a great question, because for a while I truly felt like I was gonna go crazy, and I think everyone did. And I just had to keep thinking of this like bigger picture. I was like, okay, I'm not the only one suffering. Like, stop being selfish. Stop thinking only about yourself. So, my little brother actually retaught me how to play Call of Duty. So we played video games together. That was awesome.
Nice.
Couldn't tell you what my KD is. It's probably pretty bad, but at least I know what it means.
Right.
My dad loves to work out. He's actually a pilot for United, so he really got hit hard with all of this, because he flew internationally, and now the only place he's been flying to is, you know, from our mailbox to our couch to our backyard and doing that. Like, he hasn't been going anywhere. So he really loves to work out, and we kind of got to like work out together, and that's actually what motivated me for a while, because I've always really been into working out for no other reason than it just like makes you feel good, and it releases a lot of like anxiety and just pent up energy that I would have otherwise. I mean, I talk a mile a minute. Imagine if I didn't work out, it would be so bad. I would never shut up. So I really got into cycle right before COVID hit, and it's really hard to replicate that without a bike. So I ended up investing in a stationary bike, which was great for the first 3 weeks, and then it broke. Oh. And then it was on back order for 6 months, so I ended up returning it. But, yeah, I played with my little brother with video games. I worked out with my dad. Kind of like everyone else, I fell into the TikTok craze. Like, I totally got sucked into that.
No, it wasn't me.
I hate admitting. Lucky. Consider yourself lucky.
Yeah.
Consider yourself lucky.
No, it wasn't me.
Lost so many hours of my life on that app. But it was nice to pass the time.
Yeah.
But consequentially, I learned how to cook more, and I widened my variety in my cookbook, you could say. I never made that whipped coffee that everyone was making, but I did learn to make a lot more recipes, because there was no going out, there was no takeout, there was no, I'm just going to order DoorDash or something. So that was really fun. And my mom, creds to her, because she learned this from me, but she learned how to make the best buffalo chicken dip.
Ooh.
And I definitely indulged. But what about you? What did you learn? What did you do? Like, how did you pass your time?
With me, I would say in the beginning, it was school that really kept me encouraged, because I was doing 5 classes. So doing all of that stuff was able to take my mind off of the negative stuff, not being able to graduate and everything. And then once school ended that second week of May, it was almost like, oh, okay, well, now what? I'm not getting this graduation ceremony. Like, what can I do to really pass the time? And at first, it was the podcast. Like, I was interviewing my cousins, different family members, because I hadn't seen them in like months. So I got to do that for a little bit. And then afterwards, like, I lost all motivation. Like, I didn't want to do the podcast. I didn't just want to do everything, because I was just so frustrated. But it goes back to what you said earlier, like, it's not all about you, even though you're not getting a graduation, or you can't spend time with friends and family, there are other people who may have it worse. Like, I saw on the news the other day, like, a pregnant lady, she caught COVID, and she ended up passing away from it, and she gave birth to her child, and the child tested negative, but she couldn't even spend time with her baby before she passed away, because she had the virus. And so it taught me that, a lot of people, they have it worse than you do. And, it really taught me, like, what can I do with what's in front of me right now? And so I started doing the podcast again back in June, and then that really kept me encouraged, just reaching out to different people from school, family members, and just doing that. So I would say the podcast helped me out. Video games, of course, Black Ops, 2K, like all that good stuff. And, working out too, just jogging. That's always been my thing. Now I'm into like weightlifting now. So now I'm doing like upper body stuff. So, all that stuff combined really kept me from going insane, even though I really wanted to. But those type of things really kept me grounded.
For sure. I totally agree with you. I feel like it kind of went in waves. Like, there were moments that I felt super motivated, and then there were other moments where I was like, there's no way I can get out of my bed today. I was really into like weightlifting last year. Nothing crazy, but I just never really was a cardio person, and then I got into cycle, loved it. That was weightlifting. I have never felt stronger. I have never had more energy. I just, it was really inspiring. And when COVID hit, I thought my world was going to come crashing down. And it also taught me to take a step back and to not depend so much on just one outlet or one source of like creativity or energy. So it definitely diversified my interests, which I really enjoyed. I have read more books this past year than I've read in probably the last 2 or 3 combined.
Same here.
And I love it. It makes me so happy.
Yeah, reading also, that's something I picked up on in the summer, just because like I never really liked reading books as a kid, and even in high school I never really liked it. But it was fall semester of 2019. I read a book in my women's studies class, and I really thought I was gonna hate it. Like, I literally waited till the last minute to read it. Like, she told us earlier in the semester, buy the book, like read the book, and then
don't wait.
Yeah, and then we're in class, and she was like, raise your hands if everybody has their book. Everybody raised their hand. Me and like another dude didn't raise their hand, and I've had this professor for like like over a year at this point. She was like, "Man, come on, Cedric, I knew you weren't gonna do it." I was like, all right. So I read the book after Thanksgiving break, and I really like loved it. And I found myself like in class, like different classes during lectures, like reading the book with like my laptop perched up. Like I just loved it so much. So when I was in quarantine, I was like, okay, let me find these different genres and see if I like it. And I started reading fiction novels, autobiographies, like all that stuff. And I would literally dive into the stories and finish them within 3 to 4 days. So it was something that I picked up on. I haven't read that much as of late, but I'm looking to get back into it.
That's so exciting. I'll have to get some book recommendations from you. We can swap some stories.
Oh, yeah.
I also think with reading, you know, you said you didn't like it for a long time. In school, I feel like you're kind of told what to read. You're forced to read. You're doing it. Like, they make you read. And so you create this, like, kind of just disdain for it. And then when you're kind of doing it on your own time, it becomes more of like a hobby and an activity that you choose to partake in versus when you're being told what to do. And that could also be more of just a me thing. I'm very stubborn. I don't like being told what to do.
No, I'm the
or
same
if
way.
I am told what to do, I like will make it my own. So I agree with you. There was actually in 11th grade in AP Literature, we were given like a summer reading assignment, and they gave us some choice. They were like, here's a list of books you can read, but you have to read them and you have to write this book report. And I put it off to the end, and I actually ended up reading The Awakening by Kate Chopin, and it was one of the most interesting books I'd ever read. And like, I still recommend it to people, even though it's a very old book. It was just really interesting. It was one of the first books to kind of just dive into kind of like early feminism and women's like sexuality, because that was a very taboo subject, especially in the 1900s. It's still kind of just becoming like a more modernized thing, but it was really interesting to have a historical perspective and like insight of it from like a woman author. And I really enjoyed it. I really liked it a lot. So sometimes being told what to do isn't always the worst thing.
Yeah. Those AP like summer assignments that we were supposed to do, like I always did it at the last minute. Like I think they expected us to have it in by like 2 weeks into school. Like I never did it. Like shout out to Mr. Kerwin if he's listening to this. We had
Mr. Kerwin.
We had a summer assignment. I had no idea that we had a summer assignment. Like I didn't keep tabs with my email. And then like the first day of class, like, oh yeah, your assignment is gonna be due on this following Monday. I was like, assignment? Everybody was like, didn't you know we had an assignment? I was like, no. But we'll definitely touch into that with high school and college and like I guess scheduling and just, you know, doing stuff. But I wasn't the best driven person in high school that I am now.
I wasn't either, and I'm the first person to admit it. I was very irresponsible in terms of my time. This is me formally and publicly apologizing to anyone that I ever took time from because I was late, because I forgot something at home, I lost something, or I forgot something at home, because that happened a lot. I was so guilty of that in high school especially, and I was really dependent on my mom and my dad, shout out to you guys, for bringing me my textbooks, because I would always leave them at home. I would wake up late. I was just like, it was really disrespectful to the people around me, because I was like, well, it's my time too, like whatever. And with maturity comes learning, and, you know, I started to experience that from other people once I got to college, and I did not like being on the receiving end of it. So I was like, okay, well, don't be a hypocrite, you know, treat people the way you want to be treated. And it really helped me shape up my world a little bit. And now I would say I'm very punctual, if not early, because I get stressed out if I'm not on time is late to me. So I get a little stressed out if I'm not there early, which my dad would love. He would, you know, he never believes when I say I'm going to be on time somewhere or early, because I was always late when I was younger. And when I am, he's like, wow, oh my gosh. So, yeah, sorry to all those people.
Yeah, I was listening to like a podcast the other day, and I think the person was like, you know, it's selfish when you're late, you know, because, you know, that's their person's time, and, you know, you're kind of wasting your time in a way. And I'm guilty of it too. I'll be times where I'm late to work and anything. I'll be stressed out and whatnot, but, you know, that's just life. And I remember my grandfather, he told me that, you know, if you're ever on time, then you're late. If you're supposed to be there at 11 o'clock and you get there at exactly 11 o'clock, he looks at that as lateness. So he always instilled in the back of my mind to be early for everything. So that was just my thing. It just was organization with me. I was very disorganized in high school, just leaving stuff behind or forgetting to do stuff. And even now to this day, I'll admit, I'll have times where I slip up and I mess up. Like, I had a
Nobody's
class.
perfect.
Yeah, I had a class on Monday that I forgot to go to, and that affected my attendance grade. But I was like, you know what? It's a learning experience. Like, next time, I'll set an alarm to make sure I, attend that class, because I'm doing so many different things, and there's like a million different things in my mind just racing, and you just tend to forget sometimes. But I think scheduling is like the best thing ever.
Absolutely. Before you called me, I actually, in terms of like routines and schedules, that is what keeps me grounded, and that's what kind of keeps me on a straight track a lot. I have my planner here that I use. It's just like my weekly, monthly, daily. It's huge because if it's not big, I'm not going to pay attention to it. So it's really pretty, but it's nice having like something that takes up a lot of space because I can't just hide it. And also, I use that. I like put all my assignments in there. I write all of my big exams, like the times that I have to either babysit or I'm into volunteering. So I'll volunteer at either the homeless shelter right down the road from my apartment, or there's this service dog training facility that I used to volunteer at. But because of COVID, they're not doing in-person volunteers right now, which is really unfortunate. But I would write that down when I would go to that. And on my iPad, I have a daily planner that's broken down into like hours of the day. Mm-hmm. So each morning I'll fill that out, and I was doing that prior to you calling, filling out like what I'm doing today and what times I'm doing them. So I can kind of keep myself on track and refer back to that later throughout the day. If I get a little sidetracked or I find myself not doing anything, I'm like, okay, well, what did I have scheduled to do? Or how could I use this time in a productive manner? Because just because you have free time doesn't necessarily mean that it's free. 99% of the time for me, or 9 times out of 10, like, there is something that I can be doing. I mean, I'm taking less, but I'm taking 16 credit hours this semester, still a full-time student. Like, there are definitely ways that I could be studying instead of just sitting down or doing whatever. Not to undermine the value of taking a break and having true free time to yourself to just decompress, but sometimes there's too much of that. So to have like these different schedules and like calendars and whatnot to look at really keeps me motivated, especially I love color. I love bright colors. And so at least on my iPad, I can like change the color of the ink. I can make it really girly if I want. I can make it like really dark and just monotone. I can, whatever my mood for the day is can really show in my like schedules and my lists. So I really enjoy that. I think having that sort of structure keeps me in line and on track to be like the best student, the best daughter, the best friend, and the best volunteer worker that I can be.
Yeah, sticky notes are my thing. Like, I love sticky notes. Like, I can just jot something down and put it anywhere in my room, in the kitchen, so that way I remember it. I've also gotten to the routine of setting, schedules for myself. I call it my baby schedule, because I feel like I'm like a baby. Because, like, I'll get up in the morning, sometimes in between 5:30 and 6:30, or sometimes in between 6 and 7. Like, that's just how that's how my body clock is. Like, I don't even have an alarm clock, so.
Kudos to you.
Yeah.
I could not. I would be late to everything. Thank God for alarms. Yeah. But that's great that you can do that.
Yeah, and so like in between those times, I will work on an assignment or work on a paper, because it's like, I'm already up. I'm not going back to sleep, so I might as well use this time wisely. And then once I do an hour of that, I'll just go and work out, and then I'll eat breakfast, and then maybe I'll go back and do another assignment, or just kind of meditate and decompress, because I've been up since 5:30. I can't continue to be on the go for so long, and I just do these different things that goes along with the schedule, and it's such a rewarding feeling to be able to check everything off as you go along, because it's like, okay, everything is going according to the plan. And I haven't had a situation yet where my plans have completely changed. I usually don't really respond well to that, but I know that day will come. But it's like you said, having the routine, it keeps me structured. It makes me feel less stressed, and I feel like I'm getting everything accomplished that I need to get done.
Yeah, at the end of a long day, when I get to highlight everything off my schedules or erase it from my iPad, or I do sticky notes sometimes too when I need like a third reminder, a fourth one, because some days you're just really not feeling motivated. Mm-hmm. There's nothing better than like peeling those sticky notes off your computer when you're done because it's kind of, I don't know if you've ever heard of like there was like one where you could put rubber bands on your wrist, or like similar to tying a knot around your finger. I know some people have been doing this cool new thing where you get like phone cord type elastics with plastic tags that jingle and like are bulky and loud and just distracting, but you put your tasks on there, and so each time you complete a task you get to take one off, and then when you're completely done, you know, there's nothing on you, there's nothing like holding you down metaphorically. So it's like, you know, okay, good, there's nothing left on my arm, there's nothing left to do, and you just feel, I don't know, that sense of reward and like completion and success when I get to check everything off, take those sticky notes off, whatever it may be, is just totally worth it. And I feel so accomplished when I get to do those things.
Yeah, one of the things that really gives me a peace of mind is cleaning. Like, I never thought that I would actually love to clean, but I could be organizing my room and I just it's so peaceful. I could have a podcast or a sermon in the background and I'm just like organizing every different little thing. And it's weird because, like I said earlier, I was such a disorganized person, and it's like a complete 180 of what I used to be. It's weird, you know. My mom was saying how, like, you know, once you get 22, like everything changes. Like that person that you was 2-3 years ago, you're not that person anymore. I was like, like, you know, no way. And it's like, it's true. I'm a different person than I was when I was 18. And, you know, that's a good thing. I'm maturing in a good way.
Absolutely. I feel like with each year, it's just a linear progression, but in the best way. I feel like I'm becoming more well-rounded, more, not culture, but I just feel like I've experienced so much more life, even being stuck inside the four walls of my house or my apartment. Just because, you know, the last couple of years, there's been a lot going on, whether it be our political climate, whether it be with coronavirus, just like getting older in general. But I too agree with you about the cleaning thing. Much to many people's disbelief, I like am a clean freak, and I'm always like wiping my counters down. I make my bed. The first thing I do in the mornings when I wake up is I make my bed, and then I brush my teeth. I make my bed before I brush my teeth because I hate leaving my room and then coming back to it still just being a little disheveled.
Right.
So prior to us recording, I was telling you I spent like the last 3 days cleaning my room. And although it is tiny, I really did, because I pulled every piece of clothing that I have out of my closet, out of my drawers, out of wherever it was hiding. I went through it. I sorted it. I was like, okay, I'm going to either donate this, I'm going to either throw it away, or I'm going to, do I actually wear it? Yes. Okay, I'll keep it. So I refolded everything in my drawers, in my closet, and I just feel like a weight's been lifted off my shoulders, because I can see everything. I know where it is. Like, I'm not missing anything. I washed my sheets yesterday. Everything's fresh and clean. So it really set the tone for the semester, for the year, and it just got me off on the right foot to have everything, like, in good condition.
Right. What kind of advice would you give to someone looking to find a hobby, but they don't really know how? Because I went through that at one point where, you know, I felt like I should be doing something with my time, but I just don't really know what. Like, what would you say to someone going through that phase?
Absolutely. That's a really good question. It might require me to think on a little bit, just because I flip back and forth between being like very extroverted and then very introverted. Sometimes I feel really comfortable in my environment, and then other times there's no place I would rather be than at home. And I think the best advice I have is just getting your foot in the door in the smallest way possible. Attend informational meetings, do some research on your own time online. Like for me, I was never the most hand-eye coordinated. I was not a very sports girl growing up. You know, my parents had put me in every single sport, but I didn't really thrive in anything. And, you know, there are some people that are naturally talented. There are some things that take years to come by. And for me, it ended up being field hockey in high school. So I played for about 7 years. I played all through, like, middle school and whatnot. And come high school, that was something that I found was really interesting. But it took me being put in dance, lacrosse, soccer, t-ball at the time, softball, whatever, and then field hockey to finally like enjoy that. So there's no like shame in starting something and then stopping it if your heart's really not in it. I think, you know, at least you can say you tried and at least you did it. And there's like, really, if you don't like it, kind of, we were saying earlier, if your heart's not in it, like why do you want to keep doing something you don't love? So since I've gotten into college, I really have always liked writing, but I never thought I could pursue it as a career, or like I never thought I had enough time on the side to do it. And in college, there's this organization. It was called Her Campus, and it was kind of just like a college women's like blog type website. Imagine like a oh goodness, I can't even think of a good website to compare it to, but it basically has a bunch of advice on like, you know, fashion and like meeting friends and blah blah blah. It's just like a little blog, but I got to write for that for fun my first year of college, and I thought it was so nice to have like a creative outlet because I'm a STEM-based major. My major is public health. I'm minoring in Spanish. I have worked in healthcare since my sophomore year of high school. I plan on working in it the rest of my life. There's not a lot of writing or fine arts in that career path, so to be able to integrate that in my own like personal time was really important to me because I pride myself on my writing skills and my ability to just like put my thoughts into words. Although when I'm speaking, it doesn't always come out the way I want it to. At least when I'm writing, I can erase, backtrack, and control what I'm saying. So that was really important. You know, go out of your comfort zone, look into those organizations that you might not normally look into, and then I honestly can't even remember how I got into the PALS organization or the shelter organization that I volunteer with. I just have always been inclined to community service, and there's so many ways to get involved. Even if you just Google like community service, lists and lists will come up. So I think that maybe sounds like how I found it. Through word of mouth also, like I had friends that volunteered with these organizations, so that I would just like overhear their conversations. I was like, oh, that sounds really fulfilling. That sounds like I could meet a lot of really interesting people. And, you know, then you put yourself in one situation and you meet somebody there that tells you about another opportunity. And so then you go there and you have that opportunity. So I think there's a lot of ways that you can really bounce around without fully committing yourself to something until you find what you love.
Yeah, I agree. I know with me, like now that I really think about it, I had a love of like coloring and writing as a kid. Like I used to write these little books for myself and draw these little characters and stuff. Like I used to love it. And then, you know, as you get older, your mind starts to wander off and do different things. So it expanded to video games, and I started dropping those artistic skills that I loved. And then, you know, junior year, I was getting ready to enter senior year, and I could have done AP. I think it was AP Lit. I think that was the senior class at Huntingtown, or I could have did honors comp and red. And so I was like, you know what, I'll do honors comp and red. Like, let me try this writing thing out. And then I started writing, and I wasn't really the best at it, but over time I got better at it, and it was to the point where I really loved to write, and that became the skill that I picked up and expanded on. Like, I love to write. You know, whenever I'm in public, I carry a notebook with me. If an idea comes to mind, I'll just jot it down and I'll be in my car writing. Like, I think the coolest thing about working with kids at work is kind of like I can kind of go off in the corner and I can watch them play, but I can also, you know, just write different stories in my notebook, just ideas that come to mind. And I think it's just a matter of doing what you love, you know, and not being afraid to put yourself out there. Like, I'm a big time introvert. My mom's going to give me crap when she listens to this because she says I'm not an introvert. I think I'm an introvert with extroverted qualities. But it's hard to put yourself out there when you don't feel like it. But, you know, every time I seem to do it, you know, the results benefit. Like, reaching out to you. We haven't had a conversation in like years, but, you know, this conversation is flowing so well and it's so organically. But had I not taken that chance on myself and put myself out there, you know, this wouldn't have happened. So it's just a matter of, you know, daring to be different, unique, and like you said, putting yourself out there and trying different things.
Absolutely, Cedric. I totally agree. And you were saying the same thing, just in different words. I feel like the worst somebody can tell you is no, you know? So for me, something about like putting my foot in the door or putting myself out there, although sometimes new social interactions can be intimidating, is that the worst they can tell you is no. And then you go on with your life, you move on, and, you know, the world won't stop turning just because you got rejected. And something else I've always been afraid of is just like rejection in probably every aspect of my life for no reason. It's not like I've ever, you know, it's not like I have a traumatic experience from being told no. And so I just have to remember, like, life will go on and it won't be the end of the world. And there are so many ways to showcase your skills and your talents and what you love to be, like the person that you are, even if you're told no once, twice, a million times. There are so many like self-improvement stories of, when you fall down, you just got to get right back up and keep going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, keep moving forward. I think that's like my favorite quote by Walt Disney. Meet the Robinsons. I've name dropped that movie so many times on here, but I love that. I love that movie. He keeps moving forward.
It's got a good message. No, it's totally worth it.
Yeah, exactly. How would you describe your childhood growing up? Correct me if I'm wrong, but you didn't grow up here all your life in Maryland, right?
No, I didn't. That's really awesome that you remembered that. I think my childhood was very similar to those that grew up in a military family, but very unique to those that didn't. So I was born, I'm going to go through the whole list with you. I was born in Washington State, in Whidbey Island, and then we moved to Mississippi, which is where my little brother was born. We moved to Louisiana for a very short period of time until Hurricane Katrina hit, and we had to evacuate. We lived with my grandparents in Savannah. We rented a house in the same neighborhood while our other house was being built. We finally moved into the house that we were building, so that's 6. And then from Savannah, I moved to Severna Park, Maryland, and then I moved to Edgewater, Maryland, and then I moved to Huntingtown, Maryland. So I've switched my address about 9 times, not including where I live in South Carolina now. That would make it 10. But I think moving around was difficult, but it taught me a lot about valuing and making friendships. Something that has always kind of like come back to haunt me from being a military child is I'm always very envious of those people that have lifelong friends or have lived in the same place forever, because I can never really say like, oh, I've been friends with this person forever, like I feel like, and this is just like my own personal feeling, I feel like I can never top those relationships, and I know it's not true. Like I do have this one friend, her name is Kelly, and we have known each other since we were 3 because I believe our dads like worked together. They were on the same base, something, but I knew our moms became really good friends. And ever since we were 3, our conversations, we won't talk for a year, and then we'll talk, and it's like we caught right back up. As of recent, our families have, well, not because of COVID, but prior, our families had been going on vacation together, and it was really nice to kind of just like feel like I had that lifelong friend that I never did growing up, having moved all over. But on the other hand, I got to meet so many more people than I would have ever met in my entire life. And I have all of these funny stories. I have the experience of living in different parts of the country, living out in the Pacific Northwest, not that I remember that, but living in like the deep South, and then moving up to Maryland, which arguably is either the South or the North, whatever you like to say.
I would consider the southern part. We're Southern Maryland.
We're Southern Maryland, but I know it's south of Mason-Dixon line, so technically it is south. Nothing about Maryland feels like the South to me, but where we live is very, I feel like, unique to the state of Maryland. Mm-hmm. So I would say that's a little different. But people that live like farther up north, even Anne Arundel or like, up in Howard County or places kind of up north, like I feel like that's not really South. But that, again, personal opinion. Everybody can argue with me on that if they want. I totally respect it. I'm also the same girl that doesn't really like Old Bay, so I feel like my opinion on Maryland isn't valid.
Hey, I don't like crabs either, so I'm going to get crap for that also. I don't like crabs. Buffalo chicken dip, I'm not really a fan of that. I know you said you like
breaking
that.
My heart.
but no, that's cool,
no,
though.
It's fine. Yeah, so I think I have a really unique outlook to people that haven't grown up in military families, but I know Huntingtown, because Andrews Air Force Base and Pax River are so close to us, is like littered with these families. So people that have experienced that will definitely know what I'm talking about. Part of me wishes that I got to live overseas at some point. My dad was offered like a quote unquote tour in Italy for 2.5 years. And I was like, take it, please take it. But he was like, I don't want to move you guys to a different country, blah, blah, blah. But biggest regret to this day is not getting to live in Italy. Maybe one day. Maybe I'll take it into my own hands. Yeah, long story short, I think it taught me a lot about making friendships, valuing friendships from long distance, keeping in touch with people. And the hardest part was honestly education. Curriculums are so different, so many places. I cannot admit that I am just bad at math. I have to blame it on moving around so much. I think that, when you go from one curriculum to another and they're completely flipped, it's like you almost miss out on some fundamental concepts.
Right.
And so, truth is, I'm probably just bad at math, but I at least have an excuse. I have a crutch. I have a crutch that I can lean on. But yeah, you grew up in Calvert, right?
Yeah, I've grown up here my whole life, so I've never really experienced like anything else. And it's like you said too. Like I'm kind of envious too because you've traveled to all of these different states, different places. You may not remember it, but like that's a notch that you can check off your belt. Like I would love to travel to all 50 states of this country. Be able to travel outside this country. Granted, when COVID goes away, but I would love to travel and see something that's different than Calvert County, Maryland. Even though I love this county, some people may hate on it. They say like it's just terrible. There's nothing to do here, but I love the serenity of this, the quietness of it. Like I love Maryland, and I just love this county. I love the quietness of it.
I feel the same way. It took me a while to love Maryland, and I can't say with my full heart that I do love it, but I've, especially over the last 2 years, having left it and then come back for winter break, summer, I have valued it so much more than I ever did before, because in Columbia, it's very much city life. Things are moving. People honk at you the minute the light turns green. Like, it's going. And then when we come home, like you said, it's very serene. It's, lots of fields, but there's also lots of animals in those fields. And there's just a nice quietness to being home and to Calvert that I now value, having left the county. And there's a lot of just small town, hometown like relationships, and everyone knows everyone that you can't really replicate outside of that. So it took me leaving to cherish it as much as I do now, and especially being home for those few months during COVID. It taught me to just learn to love where I live and to be thankful that I have a place that I can call home, even though I've moved around so much. And I truly believe in this. I say that Columbia is my home, and I say that Calvert is my home because it's not necessarily about the place or like where your mail gets sent to, but I truly believe that it's the people that are there. And for me, my family is in Calvert, and my family is in South Carolina. My friends, my boyfriend, my environment, like those are people that I love and cherish just as much as I do the people back at home. So I like to think that I have two homes because I feel at peace in both of those places.
Right. And you moved here in 6th grade, close to 7th grade-ish?
I did, yeah. About
Okay.
halfway through 6th grade, I came to Plum Point Middle School, which my little brother got to go to, and the rest is in history.
Yeah, exactly. I remember that too. Like you moving there at first, and then your cousin. I'm not gonna name drop her name or anything like that. I'm not gonna put her business out there like that. But those were the days. When I kind of reflect on middle school, high school. Like those were like the glory days. Of course, we'll probably look back on our college days and be like, oh man, like the good old days. But nothing can replace your childhood and what you did as a child.
For sure. I think something else that I really enjoyed about like kind of the small town environment is I really got to prove myself, although that has come more in recent years than it did when I was younger. But like I have been working at Calvert Health Medical Center, formerly Calvert Memorial Hospital, since I was a sophomore in high school, and I was very young. I was about 15 when I started working, and looking at my little brother when he was 14 or 15, I was like, there's no way in hell I would hire him. But I'm, joking, obviously. He's a great kid. He's got the biggest heart and the most work ethic ever. I'm very proud of him. Peyton, you're the best. But, like, when I was 14 or 15, I thought I was, so big for my britches. And I was like, well, I can work. I can do this. And I just had to kind of, like, prove that I could show up on time and do whatever. And, it was hard because you're at the bottom of the food chain. You just have to kind of work your way up. But I think the most important part of establishing yourself in, like, a workplace or an environment or a community or whatever is, and I saw a very great, like, GIF that depicted it, is you can't, like, step on the people below you. You can't, like, squash them. You have to build each other up. You have to help boost them to the next level, and you have to then help pull the person below you up with you. And it's like, when you get on somebody's shoulders to get up on a tree and then you bend down and you help them get up the tree. You have to keep it encouraging and, like, forward-moving environment, or else it's not going to work.
Yeah.
So I was lucky to experience that from my superiors and educators that always helped me succeed, helped pull me up to the next level or educate me more instead of just thinking like, oh, she's a teenager, she's a child, like she'll learn this later in life or she doesn't need to know it now. I'm really grateful that there were people that were like, you know what, this might turn into something good. And ever since then, I've gotten to stay in that hospital. I've moved departments, but, you know, people now know me because of how I work. And, you know, my biggest thing is like every day's a new day and you just got to put a smile on your face and start from the ground up. You know, you can't let what happened to you yesterday dictate your next day.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. I'm glad you said that too, because I've always felt like I've had this chip on my shoulder in a way, like I have to prove something, like wherever I go, whether that's in a new class or, you know, it's at work. Like the job that I've been there for pretty much almost 2 years now, and it's like every time I walk through those doors, it's like I have to prove something to these people. I have to prove that I'm dependable, reliable, responsible, like all of these different things. Even with my classes, I have to prove to my professors that I'm, you know, smart, I am dependable, I can do the work when you want me to do the work. And it's that motivation that truly like keeps me going, because I want that acknowledgement, I want their respect, so, you know, they can help build me up and take me to that next level.
Yeah, I think it's really important to like give what you get, and vice versa, because if you don't, like, the chain is going to stop eventually. That line of education is eventually going to fizzle out. And I also give props to so many of our peers that we went to high school with that are now in college studying to be future educators. One of my roommates is an education minor, and I like applaud her for it, because everyone complains. They're like, oh, well, teachers this or that. But it's kind of like, I could never, ever do something like that and have the responsibility of imparting my knowledge onto somebody else. Not because, like, I think I'm too good for it. If anything, I feel like I'm not good enough for it. I think our educators and teachers and professors are truly, like, the backbone of society, because without them, how are we supposed to forward our knowledge and, you know, just learn a little bit every day. So shout out to teachers, especially during this time, because you're doing the Lord's work.
Yeah, exactly. Your time at the University of South Carolina, USC, you know, what were some of the lessons that you learned from there your first semester?
For sure. I was not disciplined like I am now in terms of time management, as I've mentioned many times during this conversation. I had to truly learn to not, like, give into temptation. My parents have always not given me, like, free reign, but they were never super, super strict, because I was never, like, a rowdy child. I never really disobeyed them. There was one time, and I still hear about it to this day. But, you know, the fact that it was only one time that stuck out that my parents have to harp on me about, like, makes me feel a little better. I'm like, okay, I couldn't have given them too much strife, because this is the only thing they can come up with. So when I got to college, I didn't really feel the need to go absolutely, like, buck wild. Like, I feel like some students and, like, some college kids, you know, have been either sheltered or, like, have just never really been on their own or experienced freedom. And, you know, they get here and then it's like a whole new world and it gets out of hand really quickly. For me, I'm lucky where I never felt like I was, like, being rebellious, but I did get sucked into the whole, like, wow, I want to go out. I have a car here, or my friends have cars. We can do whatever without asking our parents. And so I struggled with time management and paying attention to my studies, especially my first semester of college. Second semester, got it in line, like, complete 180. I was like, okay, this needs to be better. And I feel like with each semester, it's just since improved. But one of the biggest lessons I've learned is, you know, keep your door open. Say hi to people. That's actually how I met my boyfriend of 2 years, because I left my front door open in my dorm. That's how I met the girls that lived across the hall from me my freshman year that are still my best friends to this day. You know, that's how I met all of the kids that lived in my hall, and we're all still, like, pretty close, 2 years later? So, you know, never close that door. Just always keep it open, metaphorically and literally. And say hi to people in the hallway, you know, or when you're in the elevator, like, make small talk. It can be kind of awkward, but it can also stem really great friendships and relationships. And you never know who you're talking to either. if you're in the elevator with a professor or someone that looks like they hold some sort of importance, say hi, because it could benefit you in the end. And another thing that I think is important, make a personal relationship with your professor. Like, go either early or late, say hi, send them an email being like, hey, my name is Olivia Thompson. I'm in your public health 111 class. I just wanted to introduce myself. If there's anything you need over the semester, anything that I can do to just, like, maybe not prove myself, but if there's anything I can do to, like, help out during the semester, just let me know. And 9 times out of 10, they're not going to take your offer up on that, but you've then shown yourself to them and more of just say, like, hi, I'm here for attendance. I'm here to turn my assignment in and I'm leaving. Like, they can put a name with a face, and it's especially important later in life or later in your college career if you want recommendation letters, but there's more to it than just doing it for your own gain. Do it because you want that relationship in your life, and it might work out for you in the end.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. Like, keep the door open, like figuratively and literally. Like, that was probably my biggest issue. And I touched on this yesterday with a friend of mine on the podcast, was that, I'm an introvert. Now I'm more social, I'm more able to communicate with people, but, coming out of high school, I didn't really have my friends to lean on like I used to. They were all off at university or taking different classes at CSM, so it's like now I'm in this completely different environment with people who I don't know, people who I knew from school but didn't talk to, and full-grown adults who, I'm not going to sit there and talk to them. So it's just like, what do I do? Am I just going to sit here all semester and say nothing, or am I going to, take a chance on myself and say hi to this one person? And, just saying hi to one person and making small talk opened up the doors for, friendships, working together on different projects. And it really helped me out a lot, was being able to put myself out there like that and just, allow people in, because I keep my walls up. And to an extent, I still do that to this day. I feel like I have to protect myself, protect my peace. But, being able to let them down for people who I feel like can really help me out is a really, great thing.
Absolutely. Everything you're saying, I'm nodding my head to, and I'm like smiling. I agree with you full and total-heartedly. I actually, especially with students, it's kind of intimidating to like be in a huge lecture hall or to like be now online with like 300 kids, and it's like, are these people better than me? Are they gonna show me out? It's kind of like, first of all, don't go into it doubting yourself, because you're only gonna hurt yourself in the end. You're like, I'm my biggest critic, and I know you probably are your biggest critic, and as everyone is with themselves, like, the first step for me, like having a successful semester or doing well in a course, is I just can't have that self-doubt or like that chip on my shoulder, because then I'm already just stepping off with the wrong foot. And last semester I took an anatomy class, and I'm in the next level of that anatomy class this semester, and it has so many students in it. Last semester it was like 300, and then this semester it's a little smaller.
Oh my goodness.
But huge. And we ended up making a group me for the class. It was very, very difficult. I literally shouted for joy when I got a B in the class, because I was so worried about it. But we made this huge group me, and we all talk every day, and we kind of just like shared the struggle and talked about how like hard it was. And there's something in being vulnerable with a bunch of strangers that then reciprocate that vulnerability. Like, I feel like I'm friends with all of these people. 3/4 of them I've never even met, but I ended up lucking out with, I have this study group of about 6 people. It's small enough that we're still able to meet in COVID, and like we're all able to spread out, whatever, but they're like my ride or die study friends. They're awesome, and we're all just so motivating to each other. And without that kind of like communication or that bridge with those like 300 people, or without sending those funny memes or like the messages or just like the, hey, welcome to the group me, I would not know these people. I would not have these study groups. So we just kicked back up the group message yesterday for this semester, and it has been a hoot. I literally, like, I was in class, and I had the group me pulled up, like, on my iPad on the side while I was listening to it and, like, taking my notes. It was making me laugh so hard, because everyone was like, oh, here we go again. Like, oh, here's this. And our professor has very distinct mannerisms. He's a very difficult professor, and he's very self-aware, so our TA jokingly was like, yeah, the students said they missed you, and he like died laughing. He was like, oh yeah, I'm sure they did. And so we all kind of had this like sense of camaraderie because we're suffering together, but it ends up working out. And it's nice to know that you're not in it alone. So definitely, like, say hi in those group messages.
Yeah, for sure. And with time management too, like I'm glad you touched on that also, because I don't know. I feel like a lot of people have gone through it also, where it's like that first year where they graduate high school, and it's just like, you're kind of thrown out into the deep end. You're not really sure on what to do, how to really handle yourself, cope with all these different things. But, like you said, it's being able to be vulnerable with the people around you every day in class and just, taking that chance on yourself, because it can produce great results and relationships that can change your life for the better.
For sure. I think the scariest thing about going to a big school when I was, I started college when I was 17. I turned 18 shortly thereafter, but still, like, my parents were still having to sign my papers for me. I was like, really? So I was like, I thought I was supposed to be an adult now. But the scariest part about it is, like, drinking culture is really big in college, and it's really easy to fall into that. And it can then turn into, like, unhealthy coping mechanisms. So, like, I don't drink because I'm not 21, but if I did drink, my thought process would be that just don't go crazy, because it's going to hurt you in the end. But at the same time, like, you have your whole life to do it. Don't, put yourself at a disadvantage because you're wasting it all on, like, being wasted all the time.
Yeah.
And also, like, as I've gotten older and gotten through college, there's, like, so many more fun things to do, but, like, you can still manage your time, and you can still, not hurt yourself by partaking in certain social activities with your friends. Like, it's all about time management. Like, my thing is I'm like, okay, if I get all of my studying done by 5 p.m., I can still hang out with my friends and go out and do whatever and not, like, put myself in a position to hurt my academics.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my take on that. Once everyone turns 21, they drink. Nobody ever drinks underage ever. But if they did, just make sure you manage your time and you study. And that's the most important part about it. Don't get lost, as they say, lost in the sauce. Don't do that.
Don't get lost in the sauce. That was an issue at Honeytown too. Like, there was a lot of people who we graduated with, and they were in that party hookup culture. And I'm blessed that I didn't really get pulled into that. I had a lot of respect for myself, and I didn't want to get hooked for that, because you never know what a person's going through. Maybe they're doing that every weekend because they're self-medicating, because they're hurting deep down on the inside.
For sure.
And so I don't know, I'm glad that I didn't get pulled into that lifestyle, because it's something that I don't do now, and I live a healthy lifestyle, and I'm glad that I have different coping mechanisms to deal with my stress or anxiety versus running to drugs and alcohol to help ease the pain.
For sure. That's my biggest fear about it, is that it's going to turn into my unhealthy coping mechanism or one of my friends, and I'm just not going to know, because it is so normalized that I do worry about it a lot. I'm like, wow, are they going out more than usual? Are they always drinking? Are they always doing so? Like, I am not holier than thou, and as you can tell, I'm, like, mostly joking about the whole whatever. But, like, my biggest fear is that it's going to turn into somebody's unhealthy coping mechanism, and there's no way to start that conversation without it being a little awkward.
Right.
Because it is, like, so normalized at college and universities. It's like, oh, it's like the last few years of your freedom before you're working for the rest of your life. But it's kind of like, you just have to always take care of yourself, think about the people around you, but still have fun, enjoy yourself. Indulging a little once in a while is, like, totally cool. I mean, you can compare it to chocolate. Like, if I eat chocolate every night, it probably wouldn't be great for me. But if I have it here and there, it's fine.
Yeah, so. Exactly. What are some of the goals that you have for yourself, this year, now that we're into 2021?
Absolutely. I love that. I'm not big onto, like, making quote-unquote New Year's resolutions just because I never keep them.
Same here.
But, yeah. But for me, it was just getting off on the right, like, I love when Sunday, Monday comes around, I'm like, okay, it's a new week. I can start. So when it's a new year, it's, like, the biggest one of them all. So I actually didn't even have anything kind of just, like, planned out or made until I got back to school. So my quote-unquote New Year's goals started this past Monday, because without having schoolwork to kind of have me making those schedules, and without, going grocery shopping or being just kind of stuck in my little apartment, stuck in my place, I had no reason to start anything early. Plus, like, driving back to school and, like, spending those last few days with family, I didn't want to be wrapped up in my, like, goals or anything. But for me, I would say, kind of like everyone else, I would just want to be more active. I don't necessarily want to work out more, but I want to be more active. I want to walk around more. I love being outside. So one of my new kind of goals is to definitely be more of an outdoors person. I've been snowboarding for probably like the last 5 or so years, just casually with my family, but I've really gotten into it lately for no other reason than I think it's fun. I'm by no means good at it. I spend the majority of the time with my butt in the ice, but like it's so fun. And so getting to go outside and like enjoy the beauty of nature has been awesome. For Christmas, I got a kayak, which I'm so excited about.
Nice.
So I'm going to start using that. There's one national park right near where I live, but there's a lot of state forests. So I've been hiking recently. So basically for 2021, I just want to do all of those things as much as possible, and while leaving as little of a carbon footprint as like possible. I think it's really, really interesting to just kind of look at the world around us, and especially with the way that climate change is working. You know, we never know how much longer it's going to be around all of us, so I'm just trying to cherish it while I can. Also, it's a way for me to get active and then incorporate that other goal that I have while spending more time outside. I think I want to read some more books. I don't have anything super crazy. I think I just kind of want to lock down on, like, you know, my time management and studying more. I studied a lot last semester, but I don't think I optimized my time as well as possible, because I would, like, study for 20 minutes and then I would take a 20-minute break. So, like, okay, yeah, I'm studying, but I'm also, you know, spending half the time taking breaks. So looking into more effective studying habits is something I want to accomplish. There's this one method, I think it's called the Pomodoro method, and it's like you study for 45 minutes and then you take a 15-minute break. So the studying outweighs the break, but you still give your brain a few minutes to, like, rest.
Yeah.
Being in the moment with my friends and my roommates, because my roommates are my friends. They're some of my best friends. I love them to death. They're downstairs giggling right now. Getting to spend more time with them, we all kind of collectively agreed that when our fourth roommate comes back, we're going to start spending at least 1 hour a night together, like in our living room, just talking, hanging out, instead of all being in our rooms, because it's important to, like, talk to somebody not through a phone, or, like, text them when you're able to, and when it's safe. And luckily for us, since we live together, like, it's about as safe as it's going to get, and we enjoy spending time with each other. So I think, yeah, overall, my goals for 2021 are to be outside more, be more active, spend more time with my loved ones, my friends, to read more, and to just, like, be in the moment.
Yeah, I'm looking to do the same thing. Obviously, you know, I'm very close to episode 100. You're my 69th episode, so you know, yeah, I'm on the road to episode 100. That's the big time goal. But I think, you know, my top 2 goals, because I like to set daily goals for myself, or monthly goals, and
I love that. I should do that.
Yeah, and, like, I'll have daily goals, like, you know, today I want to work on homework for a little bit, or, you know, I want to get outside and walk around more, or monthly goals, like, I want to get, you know, 10 episodes for the podcast, which I did. Like, I'm happy I did that.
Nice.
But, you know, I really want to be present, like you said, and just enjoy the time and enjoy, you know, what I have in front of me, because sometimes my mind will think about, you know, what I need to do tomorrow, or what's going to happen to me next week or 2 weeks from now. Like, that's just how my mind works. I overthink a lot, and, you know, sometimes it works out that way and it's good, and sometimes it could be a hindrance. And, you know, I want to be more present and appreciate just the time that I have now, because, you know, I'm not going to get today back. Today is just going to be memories. So I truly want to just enjoy it, so, you know, I can reflect at the end of the day and say, okay, you know, today was a good day. I did everything that I wanted to do, and I can rest easy knowing that I did just that.
I love that. I think something else that, if I can add on to my goals, is I want to be more in tune with myself, with my emotions, with my physical health, just my overall well-being, because I very much rely on taking care of other people and making sure everyone around me is okay before I finally get to myself. And, you know, we're always in a state of moving, and no one's going to be 100% okay all the time. So I'm never really going to ever get to myself and fully be able to take care of myself unless I acknowledge that it's going to be okay if some things are in disarray. It's going to be okay if not everyone is 100% perfect. So I think I want to focus more on taking care of me, making sure that I'm okay, because it's kind of like a famous saying. I don't think it's really a quote by anyone, but it's like, you can't love somebody else until you love yourself completely. And I believe in that completely. So I think for 2021, I just really want to appreciate myself, my body, my mental health and wealth as much as possible, because you only have one life to live and you should appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Dealing with my father's passing, when it goes back to, working on myself, like, I'm so busy worrying about other people and, how they're doing, like what I can do for them. And, I'm worried about them and, mentally I'm not in the best way possible. Like I'm going crazy on the inside and I just have to take that step back and just tell myself, okay, if you're not okay, how are you going to be able to take care of somebody else? And so then that's when self-care, steps in. Like, I always strive to eat healthy and whatnot. Last night, I went to Burger King and I got myself a bacon cheeseburger and 2 fries. Like, it's just, yeah, it's just self-care. It's just taking care of myself. And, I was happy to be able to do that versus saying, like, no, you're not going to do this. You're going to go home and you're going to eat your fruits and vegetables for dinner. I'm like, no, I'm going to eat a meal. But it all goes back to taking care of yourself. Something that I want to do this year because I've never been really the best at taking care of myself. So, I would love to be able to do that. I don't want to perfect it. I don't think I'll ever be able to perfect it because we're all always striving to be the best versions of ourselves. So if I can just keep doing that every day and be more patient with my emotions, then I'll be good to go for 2021.
Absolutely. And not to get serious for a moment, but I mean, I'm sure most of, or at least some of your listeners are friends that we've had, peers, educators. And I just want to say, if there's anybody that's ever going through anything, don't be afraid to reach out. You don't have to fight your hardest battles alone. And if you don't mind, I kind of just want to drop the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline real quick.
Go ahead.
It's 1-800-273-8255. Help is always out there and it's available. Your mental health is so much more important than you may think. And someone does love you. Someone cares about you. Just take care of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And so my final question to you before I go ahead and let you go is,
Sure.
If you could offer a piece of advice to your former self, maybe from 2 to 3 years ago or 5 years ago, what would you say to that young Olivia?
Oh, my God. Oh, God, that's a great question. Oh, wow. Let me think. There's a lot that I would say, but I think it would be just keep moving forward and the world will not end. And to just reflect, slow down a little. I feel like I can get really high strung. I'm not as bad now as I used to be, so I think I would tell myself to just take a deep breath in. And my mom has always been the voice in my head, or like the angel on my shoulder that I never was myself. So I think if I could go back, I would just be like, listen to your mom's advice when she gives it to you. Not even the mom advice, like, I told you not to do that or blah, 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 but like the motivating, it will all be okay. One step back is not going to end it all. And to just always put your best foot forward, like I've said 15 other times, and be the truest, most authentic version of yourself possible. Do not change for other people, because there's only one you in this world. No one else is going to be just like you. Don't try to be like everybody else.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like I said earlier, I'm looking to be more present, more in tune with myself. Like after this, I'm going to go outside and maybe go for like a jog. And then after that, I'm going to go ahead and eat lunch and meditate, then, go to work, right? I'm just doing the different things that I love that can give me peace of mind and, not feeling so frazzled and whatnot. So that's my plan.
Self-care is so important.
It is. It really is.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for having me on. This has really been an enriching conversation that I've loved hearing. I'd love to talk with you again, even outside of the podcast. And, I wish you a well 2021.
Yeah. I texted you like 2 pages of this script right here, and like I don't even need it. I didn't even look at it. I don't need it. This was a great organic conversation. Like this is what I love about the podcast. When it's organic and fresh, it produces great content, and I hope that your family's gonna love it. I'm sure my listeners will love it. So thank you again for taking your time out to talk with me.
Of course. Have a great day. Stay up, keep going, and I'm proud of you.
Oh, yeah, you do the same. Thank you, Olivia. All right, this wraps up this edition of the CedTalks Podcast. Stay blessed and stay encouraged, and I'll be with you guys soon.